Nothing like this in the sport. $2 million on the line here this weekend in San Francisco. And it's only New Zealand who have their ticket to the grand final. 2 spots remain. Who will make it? We're about to find out.
Our biggest rival is Peter Burling and the Kiwi team. They're the ones that are the favourites, and they're the ones we have to knock off this weekend.
The Kiwis, so that's 5 wins out of 12 events.
It's going to be an awesome battle. We really want to go into that final with momentum.
It's very close with France. They are 5 points behind us. They're going to take their chances if they can hurt us.
I just want to see spot.
It's probably the biggest moment for our team.
Beating the very best of my sports is something above everything. Earning $2 million would be unbelievable.
Now, the prize money is always nice. We're sort of fighting for legacy, winning 4 titles in a row, and we'll be on the record books forever.
Waves crash underneath, sound like thunder speaking. Flying carbon machines, driven by the world's best. Yes, power by nature, raw passion, all action. When it takes, racing on water, racing with impact. Give it all, everything. Give it all, everything. We are racing. When it takes, we are SailGP.
After traveling more than 35,000 miles around the globe, SailGP's 4th season has docked in San Francisco, California for the 13th and final event of the year. In the iconic waters of the Pacific Ocean, a champion will be crowned. Welcome to the City by the Bay and the SailGP Season 4 Grand Final, San Francisco. With ideal racing conditions forecasted for the weekend, today we begin the final chapter of what has been a masterclass in racing by the world's best sailors. Alongside former world champion Emily Nagel and 2-time Olympian Stevie Morrison, I'm Todd Harris. Before we hit the water, let's recap the season so far.
It's been an incredible season. 12 epic venues across 4 continents. As we approach the $2 million showdown, it's clear that the performance gap has narrowed. There have been 5 different event winners. And with this, the triple champions Australia have faced their stiffest competition yet. Tom Slingsby went without a victory for 8 events until their hometown win in Sydney, only to suffer the biggest unforced crash in SailGP history at the very next event in Christchurch.
They received 8 points docked from the season championship.
Australia have been plagued with technical problems in the second half of the season. But they always managed to push through and grind out a result and impressively sit in second overall.
We've won $3 million races in the past. I have to definitely rely on our team's experience and our ability to win under pressure.
New Zealand's Black Foils recovered from their mast break to win more events than any other team and have already booked their spot in the grand final. They have the pace and have shown that they're capable of fighting back from tough positions.
Look at New Zealand, they were in 4th and now they're in 1st.
I mean, it's been a great season for us, especially the back half, getting a whole string of wins on the board. We're all incredibly excited about getting that opportunity. Now it's about just trying to wrap out the end of the season.
Spain have enjoyed a serious performance boost this season, with driver Diego firmly up to speed in the F50. They've made the top 3 on 4 occasions and taken 2 events in wildly different conditions to put them 3rd in the standings.
It's been an amazing journey with an amazing team. We've worked super hard, and I think we ended up in a very good spot to fight for it, and we are super happy to have this opportunity.
In 4th place overall is France. They'll be chasing down Spain for a spot in the grand final. They've had a consistent year but have only made the 3-way shootout on 2 occasions.
I mean, the team is fully focused on racing here in San Francisco. We still have in the mind what happened last year, so yeah, fully motivated.
Canada, Rockwool Denmark and Emirates GBR have an outside chance of making the prize money. It's going to be a fascinating end to the season.
So after 12 excited events, it all comes down to the grand final. The Black Foals of New Zealand maintain that top spot on the leaderboard and already have secured a spot in the grand final. 3-time league champions Australia are in 2nd. The Spanish holding on to third, just 2 points back. Then it's France, Canada, Rockwell, Denmark, and Emirates GBR with just a glimmer of hope to make the grand final. The US, Germany, and Switzerland, well, they will need to look to season 5 to make big improvements. 3 fleet races are scheduled for today, and then 2 more full fleet races on Sunday. In each one, it's 10 points for a win, all the way down for 1 for last. The San Francisco event points are then added to the overall season standings before the all-important grand final, where only the top 3 teams in the overall season standings are involved. So what needs to happen for those teams in the running for one of the 2 remaining spots? The 5 fleet races here in San Francisco ahead of the grand final are going to be fascinating. And if yesterday's practice is anything to go by, we're in for some great action today.
Well, for New Zealand, they're the only team already through to the final, but they're going to want to ensure they're up to speed and ready to go before that race. However, any damage to their F50, and that could really jeopardise their chances in the final. Australia have got to ensure they stay free from any technical problems that they've been suffering from recently. Their place in the final isn't guaranteed, so they need to stay away from penalty points and in the front half of the fleet for a chance of making that 4th title. Well, the battle for the final spot of the Grand Prix is a tasty one. Spain versus France.
France need to beat Spain by 5 places and beat them in the final fleet race to win the tiebreak. On average, France have been the faster team with a similar setup to the Aussie boat, but Spain have been tactically superior, sailing less distance and starting better. Looking at the 3-boat finals, Spain have won 50% of the finals they've raced in, while the French are yet to top the podium this season.
The San Francisco racetrack is a sailor's favourite. Be behind the line but foiling fast when the clock gets down to 0. It's a sprint to Mark 1, and after here the racecourse opens out. At each gate the boats can turn left or right. The F50s have to sail at an angle to the wind to generate speed. They choose their angles, trying to find the fastest time between gates. The wind can change in strength and direction, so if you can find more wind and go faster, or a better angle and sail less distance, that's great news. It's a boat speed track here on this longer racetrack, so the wing trimmers and the flight controllers have got a lot on today if they hope to finish first. San Francisco also has a lot of current, which is indicated in blue on our screens right now. It gives us a unique feature to the course where judging your times between gates is a lot harder, and if you want to find that perfect path, you've got to be a head out of the boat.
The 10 international teams of Season 4 are ready to go, and with so much on the line, this first race will certainly give us an indication of how the weekend will go. Right now, let's go down on the water and get a first-hand report from Olympic silver medalist Lisa Darmanin.
Well, Todd, I have good news. The weekend is windy. We have winds around 30 to 40 kilometres per hour, but it's really gusty. So we're seeing these big bullets of pressure come down the course. So watch out for those top speeds. There's a little bit of opportunity to get back in the hunt if you're back in the pack, trying to find those bits of pressure. But to me, it looks like the best breeze is on that San Francisco shoreline. We also have a bit of a swell rolling through, so a few waves for the flight controllers to deal with, but nothing like we've seen before in San Francisco. With all this, the F50 is set up with an 18-metre wing and high-speed boards. We haven't seen this configuration since Sydney 2023, but they had some trailing yesterday with this setup. It's going to be a sailing extravaganza.
This is Race Committee. The course for race 1 is 4MP. Axis is 250, length is 1.1 nautical miles. Good luck.
And that is Melanie Roberts, race management. All right, Emily, where do you want to be as you look at the start box and the conditions that Lisa's reporting down the water?
Well, the key for this race is all going to be on that first leg, so getting some clear space so you can hit that line with speed. In the practice laps, just before we came to there, things were getting spicy, with Australia doing 98.8 kilometres an hour.
So 40 seconds to go before the start of race number 1. Stevie Morrison looks like Spain's going to be the last ones to enter into that start box. This could be a strategy, and we'll see how it plays out.
It looks like they're lining themselves up with the French at the minute, so really aggressive early on from the Spanish. Great Britain, Emirates, Great Britain at bottom of the line, well positioned. Australia, they're a little bit out the back. Are they going to find a gap through there? The French look like they're up and foiling with 14 seconds to go. France needs a good start here and they're well positioned. Spain struggling towards the bottom end of the line. This is the favoured place to be, but you've got to be fast at the gun. 4 seconds to go. Let's look for the timing. United States at the top.
Ooh, France!
Really well timed, but the French have absolutely nailed that. They're on the inside. It's a short run to Mark 1, so the French, if they can keep it under control, will lead at Mark 1.
And the race is on to get into the grand final. New Zealand's already there as we get to mark number 1. France has the inside line, but Denmark on the outside. Nikolai Sested coming in hot.
2, 1, and bearing away.
Really solid work by the French there. Great start by De La Pierre, and then the boat looked very stable across there. We're seeing some big speeds on that leg of the course, right across the wind. It's all about accuracy. Yesterday the teams looked pretty shaky with this high-speed setup. The boat's not easy to sail, so have they made the improvements they needed to overnight?
It's been an absolute disaster of a start for the Spanish team, who could not get it off the line. Only just on that first leg now.
Keep an eye on them, Stevie. They are in a very precarious situation, currently in 3rd place, but just 5 points ahead of France.
And that is not the position they want to see the French team leading.
Yeah, I mean, it couldn't be a lot worse for them right now, but the good news is we're early on. They'll grow into the event, and there's a big racetrack here. The thing I noticed from Mel Roberts there was 1.1 nautical miles. In SailGP, that's like a marathon. So there's a lot of racetrack for the crews to find that bit of space and then sail their own path. But right now, the French masterclass. And of course, the last time we had these 18-metre wings up, I'm pretty sure was back in Sydney, wasn't it?
Sydney in 2023.
And that was when the French dominated.
But let's not forget, the French did not participate yesterday during the practice races as they had some issues and a broken rudder. So here they are really getting their first taste of high-speed racing in San Francisco Bay.
First taste in San Francisco Bay, but it's important to know as well that these little wings, we've only actually done 6 races total, all in season 3 with those wings. The French won 3 out of 6 of those races.
Well, that's the kind of confidence boost they need, really. We can see New Zealand and Australia, they're in the middle of the pack, and they've got to really play the balancing game. New Zealand definitely into that final. Australia should be there, barring accidents and penalty points, but they need to keep the boat working well and make sure they're coming into the final race absolutely primed tomorrow afternoon.
So at gate number 2, it is France, Denmark, the USA in 3rd, but they give up that inside line to Nathan Outridge and the Swiss. The Australians and the Kiwis decide to split the course. And Emirates GBR coming in. They've got inside priorities. Germany comes in hot. And then it's Canada currently sitting in 8th, and Spain nowhere to be seen as of yet.
Always a pretty interesting part of the race here. We're going to learn a lot about the racetrack. And the Australians coming away from the shore, France going towards the shore. Who's made the gain? What are you seeing on the water, Lisa?
Well, interestingly, I did say that I thought the San Francisco shoreline is working, but right now there's this really nice breeze out to sea where Australia and New Zealand are heading. I think they will find more pressure, but I think the shift will be with France right now.
France at the top of your screen, they lead. They currently sit in 4th overall, 5 points behind Spain.
The umpires, penalty USA relative Canada, port tack boat not keeping clear.
So they will have to drop behind the Canadians, and that will yield a nice position for Taylor Canfield and company. They will go from 4th back to 5th.
And what did Lisa mean by shift? Well, it's talking about the angle she's sailing. The French are nearly sailing straight up the course. They have had a good wind shift. They're minimising distance.
And there on the bottom left, you can see the wind speeds of the teams. Australia, as they come across, the wind speed is dropping slightly. They had some good pressure offshore, which the Danish team are now heading towards.
Let's not forget, everyone trying to win this regatta, but more importantly, it's the battle. You try to get into the grand final, which New Zealand has already secured a spot in. There are 2 more spots available. That is the big race for $2 million. That's tomorrow on Championship Sunday. For the season, $350,000 up for grab. New Zealand's already won that. And then $200,000 to the winner of this event.
Sounds like it could be a pretty good weekend for someone then, Todd. Just a great manoeuvre there. Did you see how level the whole platforms stayed as we're looking back on the boat? It stayed really level the whole way through. One board down, one board up. Nearly a 90-degree turn, and it was all done seamlessly.
But Stevie, do these boards, these smaller setup, allow them to carve more in this kind of wind?
the whole thing will be going a lot faster. So the trouble with that is when the board drops into the water, the angle that it's set at is absolutely crucial. So there's some benefits for it being smaller, but potentially there's some big risks just because you're going faster.
Right now, France having no problem at all as we take a look at this T-Mobile 5G POV camera angle, and you get an idea just how high they are flying that boat.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty spectacular shot, and I think what's interesting from yesterday is the teams are noticeably pushing the boats a bit harder. You know, that practice day is so valuable for the crews.
Right.
France, of course, didn't get the practice they would have liked, but they seem to be fitting back into it pretty well right now.
What was quite interesting as well is while there are some teams that are really pushing that ride height right up to limit, over a metre high, Australia actually weren't. They were dropping about 100 mil lower than that target height, but their stability was so much better than everyone else's because of that. You could see that ride height there on that leaderboard now.
Approaching gate number 3, you hear the talk on board France.
Yeah, solid lead for the French here, really. They've got Denmark done some nice work on this upwind leg, got themselves back in it. Of course, really fighting for pride here at this event, Denmark. I think mathematically they'll say they can find a way through to the final, but they need a lot of breaks to go their way. Spain, 8th at the minute, so they've made some gains, but they're still well and truly stuck back in that pack.
Spain crossing in front of the Americans on the right-hand side, very close there. So they'll pick up yet another position. So they're working their way up. They were in 10th. They are now up to 6th. Ooh, this is going to be tight in the middle of the course.
Right of way with New Zealand and Germany there. So the United States had to take some last-minute action, and they've fallen off the foils. That will be very costly. Port tack Switzerland, fouled the starboard tack New Zealand. So that's all about which side of the wind is coming over the boat. Port tack, it's coming over your left side. You haven't got the right of way. So Switzerland, pretty basic error, but I imagine they were just trying to push that a little bit too much.
So Spain had moved up 2 positions. They drop back now. They sit in 8th, just behind Emirates GBR. Germany currently sitting in 6th place, but everyone is chasing the French, a team that were not even out on the water yesterday because of technical difficulties. They were unable to practice with the rest of the fleet, and here they are, Stevie and Emily, looking like they belong in the San Francisco Bay.
Well, they're doing a great job, aren't they? Fans on the shore there, picture of Manon, strategist on board. She's looking now to try and find that bottom gate.
And we can see really clearly here that they're actually not pushing that ride height that high at the moment. They're focusing more on keeping it stable. All they need to do is stay ahead of Denmark, get a solid first result, and they could be into this final.
There you see the flight controller, Jason Saunders, on the right-hand side. You see all the positions, everything that needs to be done. It is so carefully choreographed, but at these speeds, Stevie, it's not easy making that transfer.
Well, no, and especially if you get anything a little bit wrong, but that was nice and smooth, so no real problem.
Leg 4 of 6. This is race number 1. We've got 3 fleet races for you today in beautiful San Francisco, California. This is event 13, the SailGP Season 4 Grand Final.
Big lead for the French here as well, and to my eye, that mark they've turned round, they've turned left, looks a lot further up the course here. So I think they'll be feeling pretty good about where they've gone. Imagine that Denmark will follow, and that's great news for the French. If they could come out and get a win in the first race, what's that going to do pressure-wise to the Spanish crew?
No question about it, and this is playing out exactly what they needed.
Well, really, the French need to win, and they need the
Spain to finish out of the top 5.
Exactly, which is pretty much perfect at the moment.
But credit to Diego Botín and the Spanish. They were in 10th place. They've moved up to 6th, and they still have another leg and an opportunity to pick up one more position. Phil Robertson in Canada, they come in now, currently sitting in 3rd place overall, still with a very outside chance of making the final. But it is all about New Zealand and Australia, and right now they are in a match racing situation in 4th and 5th.
Well, a big gain for the New Zealand crew there. They turned right at the top, Australia turned left, and that seemed to be a really big gain on the course there. Must have found more wind or better current. Whatever they've done, they took a good 100 metres out of the Aussies.
So on the right side of your screen, you have the current overall leaders in the series. On the left side, the 3-time reigning and defending champion Aussies. Spain's come through in 6th, Emirates GBR in 7th. And the Americans have dropped back behind Germany now. They sit in 9th, just ahead of Switzerland.
Well, it's tight, isn't it? And is this going to be a bit of a dress rehearsal for the final here? The grand final, of course. Australia have never lost it, and they had been struggling, but they've really got themselves back up to speed. They seem to be a lot faster. They're more like their old selves, if you think, really.
It's definitely interesting to see how close Australia and New Zealand are keeping to each other in this race. You know, the Kiwis are through to the final. The Aussies just need to avoid messing up. And it's like the Kiwis are keeping an eye on them here.
Peter Burling said he would not back off on these races. He's going to race full tilt, even though they're already into the event grand final. Stevie, does that surprise you at all?
Well, it's a juggling act, isn't it? I'm convinced in sport you've got to arrive with momentum, feeling like you're sailing well. So these races are crucial for them. How are they hitting the start line? How are they sailing the boat? But I think if you're going to go into any situation where it's a little bit too tight, I imagine Pete will play the safe side of things.
And we will continue to update you on how it stands. Remember, the all-important grand final coming up on Sunday, where only the top 3 teams on points on the season will race for $2 million. And if it goes the way we think it's going to go here in race number 1, Emily, with France winning, and Spain in 6, I think that would put France in the final.
It would. It would put them tied on points with Spain. But as we know, a tie break goes to the last race sailed. So France would win that at the moment, but still plenty of races to go.
3 races today, 2 more after this one, and then 2 more fleet races tomorrow before that big grand final. So a great start for France. It couldn't get much better, with Spain giving them help with a terrible start. They now sit back in 7th place.
Got a battle happening in the middle of the pack as well. The French are well away here. They've just got to turn left on Mark 5, and then it's just a sprint to the finish for them. So perfect start to things here for Quentin de la Pierre. But Australia and New Zealand, an absolute tussle in the pack there. They're in the middle of the fleet, but of course they are so much more confident of making it to the final on Sunday that they're already seem to be sizing each other up.
Australia has a 2-point lead over Spain in 3rd, 78 to 76 points, so they're doing really well. And Spain being that far back is going to help the Australians solidify their position earlier if this form continues. But it is France clears Mark 5, and the French bring home the victory in race number 1 in San Francisco.
What a start for the French, absolutely perfect, and it all came from a really good execution at that start line itself. So they've sailed a smooth race, really good start for them. As we see Canada now, they're sailing that boat well, but it's just been a season of not quite enough really for the Canadian crew.
Phil Robertson rounds mark number 5. He's got Peter Burling, the overall series leaders, right behind them. This will be a bit of a drag race, but I think Canada's got just too big of a lead, and it will be the Canadians that finish in 3rd. And New Zealand will hold on for 4th, with the Aussies coming in 5th.
Well, it's a pretty solid start to things there, because the French team just executed that beautifully, sailed away. Spain have sailed well, but they had a terrible start. Now, was that pressure? Is Botin feeling pressure? As we see in the pack, it's tight. The Swiss have turned in front of Germany, but now it's right way back to Germany here. They're going to get round them. Oh, Nathan Outridge is not going to have enjoyed that.
So Spain got as high as 5th place. They drop back on this last leg to 7th place. They need to stay in the top 5 if they want to hold on to that 3rd position in the grand final. But for Diego Botin, Stevie, Emily, you got to just go back to the start. I mean, it was terrible for them.
They just made it really hard for themselves, I feel. You know, they turned in late. They didn't have much choice where they went from that position. But I think the thing to remember is they haven't had a lot of time with these small wings.
I just have rocks in front of us. Yeah. Nice comeback, guys.
So the Americans have some work to do. They finish in 9th, 1 spot ahead of Switzerland, but the big win goes to France in race number 1 here in San Francisco. All you have to do is go back to the start of this race and know that it was all France.
And one of the really tricky things with this smaller wing is that it does take longer to accelerate. And because the teams haven't used them that much, it's really key to figure out when they need to pull the trigger, put the bow down and accelerate. And France nailed it. They hit the line at 56 kilometers an hour and with space around them. The Spanish, though, misjudged their angle to the line and couldn't make it.
Well, and from there on, the French sailed very, very aggressively across this first leg, but the whole thing for the French was how stable and how well they sailed the boat. But again, we've seen it time and time again in SailGP, haven't we? If you can lead at Mark 1, you give yourself that chance to then sail your own course. And the French did that beautifully. But for Spain, wow, I mean, it was a big error in the start, to be honest. Look at this, they can nearly not make it to the start line. They're behind everyone, there's no wind for them there. Disaster for Botin. He needs to have a complete reset and get himself going. Pressure is now well and truly on that Spanish team, Todd. Oh, look, they're nearly stopped at the start here, Todd. I mean, that's just disastrous for them on board there. And that all came just a little bit late into the start box.
And then we can see here in the numbers just how critical having that lead at Mark 1 was, because for France, it allowed them to sail fast with 100% fly time. Same for the Danish team who rounded in second. Now, the French, they managed to sail less distance than all of the other teams by 400 meters, which is a considerable distance in a 1 mile long course. They also had least number of maneuvers, just a masterclass in how to get round.
One race complete, and it goes the way of the French. They get the win. Denmark finishes in second. Canada sits in third, with New Zealand fourth and Australia in fifth. But more importantly, Spain dropping all the way back to seventh. Now it is just one race of 5, Stevie Morrison, so there is time to recover. You made that great point, but this sends a message that the French are not messing around.
Well, if you started today nervous on board that Spanish boat, you've not helped yourself, have you? Because the French have come out absolutely firing, but we've seen the Spanish do it all year.
This is the only way you can get a good look at Quentin Delapierre and the French. You got to slow it way down. It looked like Switzerland was going to have a good run, but again, Nathan Adridge got himself into some serious traffic. Germany got in there for the mix, but Emily, Stevie always talks about this: get away from everyone and stay away from everyone.
Yeah, but the thing we also have to remember is that the 4 teams at the back of the fleet were the ones that have used this wing the least. So there's only been 6 races sailed on this wing before. The Germans weren't in that season. Right. The Swiss hadn't had much experience at that point either. Can you really blame them too much?
High speeds as they came away after mark number 1, and they bear away, and it was all France who dominated at the line. They came in there, Stevie, and as they got to that mark 1, defended and never looked back.
No, and so often it's about not making mistakes, isn't it? And those teams at the back, they did make some simple errors, controllable errors. France controlled the controllable. They got the job done, but we're only 1 race in. There's a long way to go in this event.
1 race of 3 complete on day number 1 here at the SailGP Season 4 Grand Final, San Francisco, the 13th and final event. And we are excited to see what's going to play out the rest of today. Spain in a little bit of worry, and France on the money. Let's take a look at the standings now. France, again, you get 10 points for the win, 1 for last place. France now with 10, Rockwell, Denmark in second, Canada finishing in third with 8 points, and then you see New Zealand already into the grand final. Australia looking pretty secure in second place, but Spain, 7th place, they only get 4 points. So if the event ended right now and we went right to the grand final, I know we've still got 4 races to go, this is how the grand final would look, Stevie. And France, I think, coming out without any practice, they come out and answered all the critics.
Just good conditions for them, but what they did was they executed things well. They controlled what they could control with their timing back to the start. Spain made it too hard for themselves. Pretty easy bit of a debrief for the Spanish coach, I'd say. Keep it simple.
Keep it simple and come out firing on all cylinders for this next race. They need to be on that line at the gun.
One of the teams that is already into the grand final, that is the season-leading Kiwis, the Black Foils, on 93 points coming into this one. We now take you down onto the water on board, and their driver, Peter Burling. Pete, great race for you guys. Good start. You stayed away from trouble, most importantly. How important is it for you to protect that asset and get that boat safely into that grand final on Championship Sunday?
Yeah, well, I think you've got to be getting into that final in good shape. It's definitely that balance, like it's been all season of making sure you look after the boat, but push it hard enough that you're ready to go come the final. And really happy with the way we came back through in that race, but we've got a couple more good ones to come.
And Pete, it looks like the wind's quite changeable out there. What are your priorities on the racetrack?
Yeah, super shifty. We got the first phase with the Aussies wrong on that. First that wind of that race put us right to the back, but yeah, it's about keeping it fast in these puffs and making the most of it.
And Pete, you had to make one last change with a new member on the team. Finn Henry comes aboard, so it looks like a baptism by fire for him. Looks like he did okay.
Yeah, we actually got lucky enough to sail them yesterday as well. Louis kind of went down yesterday morning, so yeah, he's been doing an amazing job fitting in, and yeah, pretty challenging conditions for someone just to jump on the boat, but yeah, great to have him.
Appreciate it, Pete. Good luck to you guys in race number 2 coming up in a matter of moments. As we welcome you to the SailGP Season 4 Grand Final here in San Francisco, California. This is the final event of the season as we look forward to 2 great fleet races still to come. First blood is drawn by the French as they try to punch their ticket into that grand final and the race for $2 million. We've got 2 more great races from the iconic waters of San Francisco when we return.
Hey everyone, I am back, and what a great first race to start this grand final weekend off with. I mean, we're here in San Francisco for our 4th year in a row for the grand final, and I mean, it's no secret, this place is incredible. We've got the backdrop of the Golden Gate Bridge right behind me, and the conditions in terms of sailing is perfect. The wind is around 15 knots every single day. It's a bit foggy today, but the wind is so good and the water is flat, so it makes these F50s just rip around the course. I want to give you guys a little bit of context as to where I am right now because it's really cool. Right now, I'm standing in the coach's booth. Now, this is basically where all 10 team coaches are connecting in with their F50s. All the teams, they've got multiple computers at their disposal. They've got all the perspectives of the F50. They have bird's eye views of helicopters, they have the onboard views, and they've got all the data from the boat coming onto their screen. So we've got the New Zealand team right behind me, and as you can see, you have both of their coaches. One of them is Josh Jr. Now, he was the grinder on the New Zealand team, and now he's stepping in as a coach role. Now, I think this is super valuable for the New Zealand team to have a sailor who's been on the boat be able to connect on board with the team. And I mean, they have access to the comms and they're actually able to communicate with them during the race. Now, this is incredible and very important for the teams because it's almost adding a 7th sailor to the boat during the entire race. And I think it's a really important factor that they need to take into account and something that they can really use to their advantage. So I'm really curious to see how each team does it differently, and it's really cool to see. The first row has the first 5 teams. This is the second row, and to the right of me you have the race management, which is really cool.
Yes, powered by nature, powered by nature. We are SailGP.
This is event 13, the SailGP Season 4 Grand Final from San Francisco, California, as we bring down the curtain on Season 4. Alongside Emily Nagel, Lisa Darman, and Stevie Morrison, I'm Todd Harris.
The course here in San Fran has it all. With the current flowing under the bridge and down the channel, we end up with 2 knots on the right-hand side and significantly less inshore. Sailors will also be looking out for the classic Crissy Field wind bend, where the breeze comes over the headland and shifts left, giving well-positioned teams a better angle to the top gate. Looking at our race modeling software, it's all about picking that sweet spot along the shoreline in order for the teams to make most of the wind and the tide. But it's super gusty out there, so strategists really need to keep their eyes out of the boat and find every little gain they can.
So the fans settle in as we come up on 3 minutes to go before the second race of the day. We've got one more still to go. International crowd here at a beautiful natural amphitheater to watch the world's best sailors do battle. And we get ready for fleet race number 2. Remember, 5 fleet races before tomorrow's championship grand final. Stevie Morrison, 3 minutes to go. Where do you want to be?
Well, I mean, ultimately it was the more downwind end of the start line, so that puts you more on the inside towards Mark 1. That was the place to be. All the teams are now going to know that. Easier said than done.
Well, I always trust Stevie Morrison, but when I've got someone down in the water with an Olympic silver medal around her neck, I'm going to her. Lisa Darmanin, tell us where you want to be on that start box and what are the conditions like here for race number 2?
Todd, I think it's actually picked up a bit for this race, but what I learned from that race course was that, no lap is the same. The breeze is quite changeable out here. We've got big bullets coming out of all directions. So we saw Spain. I did have a bit of a chat to them, but unfortunately I couldn't get that interview to you, but they just got stuck on the start. It was just a really unfortunate situation. But, Diego, he's such a calm sailor. He didn't seem to faze him, so it'll be interesting to see if they can bounce back. But yeah, really gusty out here, lots of opportunity, but looks like if you get to Mark 1 first, life's easy, like the French.
Yeah, exactly. Let's take a look at it one more time, Stevie. Here's the onboard of Spain. It looks like they thought they could get around Canada.
Well, they did, but look at that mark up there to the right-hand side of their wing. They're aiming at it now, but for the whole time they were missing it to the left, and they need to leave that on their left-hand side. They need to be looking to the right of it. They didn't find themselves there, and then suddenly they're in no wind. All the boats above them are blocking the wind to them anyway, and they can't get close enough to the wind to sail up there. So disaster, really. Real misjudgment from quite a long way out. Could be to do with the fact we've got the current that Emily showed us in that last thing. The current's holding you down. It's coming from the top of our screen down the screen. So it is a factor. They need to judge that better.
And let's remember, Spain was the last team to get in the start box, Emily, so it looks like they're going to get there a little earlier this time.
Yeah, and we can see here that blue arrow on the start line. That's showing the optimum position on the line, which explains why we had that full little traffic jam of multiple boats, not just the Spanish, fighting for that bottom end in the last race.
So if this was Formula 1, and it really is Formula 1 on water, that would be the pole position.
Exactly.
Here we go, a minute away from the start of race number 2. 10 international teams, all vying for a win here. You get 10 points for the win, 1 point for last. And the battle really between Spain, France, Canada, Rockwell, Denmark, all trying to get that third and final spot into tomorrow's grand final, the race for $2 million.
French with a very similar strategy there. They're at the back of the box. They're going to try and size things up and come in foiling fast when the gun goes. New Zealand turn in the middle of the fleet. They're on the foils already and they're leading everyone back, so they're going to have to slow down at some point. Spain are out the back at the moment. They are better positioned. Let's keep our eyes on France and Spain. That's the battle really for this event, to see who can make the grand final. We can see Spain up and foiling. They are better positioned, but they look a little late to my eye at the moment. France up and running as well, but is there a gap for those two boats to get through? I think at the moment I like where the Danish are and I like where the United States are again there. Canfield on board the US, got the pole predictor, sat at the moment on the Swiss, but it's all about acceleration. Watch the line turn. White. It's go, clear start, superb work. France again have found a way through. Brilliant by De La Pierre, but he's now in a sprint with New Zealand towards Mark 1.
He's got Emirates GBR just behind him and the Australians to his left. Here we go. Can France get it done? 2 races in a row as they approach mark number 1. Watch the speeds go up.
Oh, they've just got to stop the Australians being overlapped with them. They are clear ahead, so that's good. The Australians were trying to hang on alongside the French there. They couldn't do it. Brilliant from De La Pierre again. What a start. 2 for 2.
Look at the speeds on board with Quentin De La Pierre getting ready to make his move.
We're looking to see how smooth does that platform stay. It looks pretty good there. Manon takes the wheel while Quentin runs across. Australia have manoeuvred brilliantly though. They're the fastest boat out there at the moment.
And once again, it is not good news for that Spanish team. 9th position now. They were 10th going round Mark 1.
Maybe the pressure, maybe the stage a little too big for Spain right now as they drop back to 10th place.
Well, they just haven't ever really, when they've won these events, they've tended to be on the lighter wind boards, the bigger foils. These foils are for when it's windy, they're for going fast, and De La Pierre loves to put the hammer down on that French boat.
And there you see the speeds out on the water in both miles per hour and kilometers an hour. The French pushing right around 50 miles an hour on these flying F50s, but it's the Australians now looking to be taking that top position.
Oh, here we go, and we can see our race to the final at the moment, the race to the grand final, sorry. And we can see at the moment the French are doing enough to eliminate the Spanish.
So we should get there.
It's definitely not over yet. One interesting thing about this race course is that while it's super long, it's over a mile long, it's actually quite narrow, and that forces the teams to do more maneuvers. They can just about make it to this bottom gate in 2 maneuvers, but misjudge it slightly, they have a third to do.
To put it in terms of basketball or baseball for our American fans, this is like being in the NBA playoffs in a 7-game series, and you already have 2 wins in pocket, and you give away the next 4 games. That's what Spain is looking at.
I mean, the Spanish have got work to do. They're still at the back here as well, and it's that first downwind leg, the one they've just completing now to gate 2, that's often your chance to make a gain, and they're really having to scrap, and of course the risk is up. They're making little mistakes. It's got to be pressure.
It is clear, though, that all of the teams at that back in the pack are all making little errors. We saw both USA, Canada, and Germany all come off the foils in their roundings.
All right, Lisa Darmanin, you're seeing all these little errors being made in the middle of the pack towards the back of the pack. Why is that happening? Is it a change in the conditions?
I think what's interesting is when it's sort of gusty and shifty like this, it means the forces are changing a lot. I think with this 18-meter wing, there's also nowhere to hide. It's a lot smaller, which means you really need to harness the power. It's Kevin Pepinay on the French team was telling me that actually you can stall the wing a lot easier than the 24-meter wing. So because it's a smaller sail, you've got to be a little bit more delicate with it, a little bit more finesse around the course. But where I am is I'm actually at the next gate that they're going to. It's a lot lighter up here, so there's more breeze all the way down near Alcatraz, and then it gets a lot trickier as they move up the course.
All right, Steve, translate a little bit for Lisa. What does she mean by saying there's nowhere to hide?
Well, what she's saying is these wings, they don't have the same amount of horsepower, so you have to trim them perfectly to get the maximum out of them. We're not at the top end of the wind speed for these. It's not light winds, it's pretty much in range, but if you make a slight error with how you set it up, your efficiency goes away massively.
And it also then means that you're punished even more, because if you come off the foils, you've got a much smaller wing to get you accelerated, to help you take off again. So the distance you're losing is much greater than with the normal wing.
Tosh Bryant, the strategist, makes the move across, and there you go. Slingsby's in his pod. He's got his hands on the wheel. The Australians, the 3-time reigning and defending champions, had a couple of snake bites earlier this year, losing points, and here they are letting everyone know why they are the 3-time reigning and defending champions. They lead race number 2 with one more race still to go today.
They lead, but they look fast as well, and we even heard Tom Slingsby there say nice tack, nice manoeuvre. That's Tom Slingsby really starting to feel that bit more positive again. That's the Tom Slingsby we've seen at this stage of the season the last 3 seasons.
When you look at the numbers as well, it's quite interesting that it's the Aussies and the French that are leading the race, because they actually have a very similar setup when it comes to the boat, how they angle it. Typically upwind, we see that they're one of the most bowed down boats, especially downwind. They're very aggressive with getting the bow down, putting on as much rudder lift as they can, and really lifting the boat as high as possible out of the water.
Emily, you make a good point how they set up the boat. Want to make sure that everyone knows all these boats are identical, but you can tweak it the way you like to sail it.
Exactly.
And I think we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that they've put themselves in a position to be at the front and therefore to make smooth decisions when they want to. If you're in the pack, you're compromised, you're taking second guesses at it. Australia are just sailing really fast, and we haven't seen the Australians sail like this for some time now. Here we go, replay here. We're on board the Kiwi boat, we're on the front of it. Let's have a little look at them here, looking a bit unstable. You see there a slight error, they get the boat a little bit too high in the air, and then as soon as you get high in the air goes around the foil, it crashes down, and that's really costly. Look, they're back to 5th. Remember, they were right next to Australia a lap ago.
Let's not forget, though, that the Kiwis, New Zealand, is already into the grand final, so not a lot of worry there, other than they do not want to do any damage to that boat. It's Australia, France, Great Britain, and Switzerland. As the French come around, remember, winners of race number 1, they are in the battle for that 3rd and final spot. They were 5 points behind Spain coming into this event, and if it were to end right now, it would be France, Australia, New Zealand in the $2 million race on Sunday.
And now we can see that distance to the leader, and it just keeps going for Australia, 400 meters ahead of France.
Here we go. What's the move here, New Zealand? They're in 6th, in the pack. Of course, it's just that balancing act for them. Try not to break the boat, but try and make sure you're feeling confident before the grand final. For the Spanish, though, here they are. Look at them. They're really, really struggling on board that boat. There's a lot of work for the coach to do now. He's got to get in their ear. He's going to have to help them after this race to fix the problems, because they can't afford a third race this far behind the French.
Take you on board with our T-Mobile 5G POV camera on board the Spanish boat. One of the hottest teams over the last 3 or 4 events. They've been consistent, they've been fast, but Stevie, they just seem out of sorts, as you put it out here in San Francisco in the first 2 races.
I think they've just sort of come back a little bit too late at the start. They're trying to find gaps through where there aren't gaps. It's not really their style. I think they just need to relax a little bit, try and give themselves an easy start, aim to just be 5th at Mark 1, and then you can work from there.
Like 4 of 6 as Canada picks up a boundary penalty. They go outside the boundary, so they will have to drop back. Right now, they currently sit in 7th place, 1 spot ahead of Spain, so that will help the Spanish. And look at this, Tom Slingsby, they spin it around, they dip that right hole just a bit, but quickly get back up and foiling again.
Yeah, tough manoeuvre they put on there. That was basically, I'd have said, that was a training manoeuvre for them. They've chosen to make it a bit hard. It would have been a lot easier to go straight, but they've swung back towards the San Francisco shoreline. They probably see a little bit more wind in there, but also they see they've got a big lead. They can afford to lose a bit of distance to then give themselves control further up the course.
So Lisa Darmanin, we go down to you. Did the Australians make a right selection down there? Is there a favored side of the course here with just 2 legs to go?
I think the reason that the Australian team did that is because it sets them up quite tactically for this next turn. So these sailors, they're always thinking a couple more steps ahead than what we're seeing. So I think that was more of a long-term situation by Tom, but he's tacked over. He's now going the same direction as the French out to sea, where we're generally seeing better pressure. But we know the tide's out there, so I'm not sure how much that's affecting them as they head the direction they're heading right now.
As Lisa was reporting that, the French pick up a boundary penalty. See how close that gate is down there to the boundary, and apparently they have sailed out, says Craig Mitchell, chief umpire. So it's Australia, Emirates GBR now in 2nd, France in 3rd, with New Zealand in 4th, and Denmark in 5th.
Yeah, it's just a small penalty they need to take there. They've dropped back 50 metres. That's more than enough for them to take the penalty, but it has allowed Great Britain past. And of course, it's not just about Spain and how well they do. The French team need to keep winning. They've gone from 1st to 3rd in this race, so that's a few points they've potentially lost here.
Meanwhile, it is Australia running away from everyone. More than 300 meters away from their next closest competitor. That would be Emirates GBR, who sit in 2nd place and with just a glimmer of hope of making tomorrow's grand final.
Really nice manoeuvre there by the Aussies. Accurate. Boat foiling well, but it is noticeable they're definitely not flying the boat as high as we often see them in slightly easier conditions, and that's just because the wind is so changeable. It's changing direction, it's changing strength. When the boat accelerates as you get a gust of wind, you've got to move the foils to keep the boat at the right height, and if you're right on the edge the whole time, you've got a problem.
What we've also seen from all the practice racing and so far today is that Australia is one of the best when it comes to manoeuvres, particularly with this setup. So they actually have a slightly slower rate of turn than some of the other teams. You'll see the Kiwis really just rip it through the turn, while the Aussies actually sail a little more conservatively in their tacks, but it means they're super consistent. They typically come out with the wings slightly more depowered, which means that it's also a lot more forgiving.
Their driver, Tom Slingsby, as we've said before, they are the 3-time defending champions in this series. He has a gold medal from the Olympics. He has an America's Cup title to his name. But this year, they have only won 1 event, Stevie, and that was on home waters in Sydney. And that was the event before they went to Christchurch and had that incident where they smashed up their boat.
Well, it did look like they'd just found some form at that point, didn't it? So that was a big incident for them in New Zealand. But I know what Tom Slingsby will tell us when we say that to him. He'll say, you've only got to win 1 race, and that's tomorrow afternoon.
He's exactly right. You can be barely into the grand final, and you can win it and walk away with $2 million. At gate number 5, it is the Australians who make the turn. No one near them as they will head towards the line, and their fans in the grandstands here in San Francisco, California. It is Australia that wins race number 2.
They did a nice job there, and we could see the wind is just so changeable. It's coming down to getting that average speed up. pretty much like Emily said, if you put the boat too high, it gets very risky. It will go faster, but of course it's not about a top speed. It's not a competition for one moment of top speed. It's about your average speed around the course. That's all that matters. And right now, New Zealand, right-hand side of screen, they are struggling a bit, but the French are all the way back to 5th at the moment. Ooh. Terrible upwind leg for them. They need to get points, and they need to get them quickly.
Emirates GBR with Giles Scott at the wheel. He'll bring it in for second place. Good points for them as they finish the first race in 6th. Now look at this.
Aggressive move by the French. They're sailing nearly straight into the wind. They're going to slow down, slow. They're right off the foils. They've just got round, but can they accelerate quick enough to stay ahead of New Zealand? They're struggling to get up on the foils. They're positioned well. They're foiling. They're okay as we see Rockwool Denmark, Canada. They come over the top, but Canada's going to sail Rockwool Denmark off the course.
Both of them.
Oh, they're missing the fall. Canada. Oh, no.
They've hit the finish mark.
Oh, they can't do that. Oh, that's a disaster. It's lucky it's a soft mark. There shouldn't be anything too bad done to the boat there, but oh my word, Phil Robertson, he just got the Danish boat in his eyesight. He got the aggression out, and he's put himself in a bit of a situation. Denmark here. What does this mean for Spain as well? Potentially a few places gained back for Spain here.
So France finishes in 3rd, and we'll have to figure out as Switzerland tries to come back. Now it's Denmark that has to come back and go into the actual finish line. So this is huge for the Spanish.
Yeah, I mean, massive. They've ended up only losing 1 or 2 points to the French there. So sometimes they say, Todd, it's better to be lucky than good, and that was pretty good news for the Spanish right there. That's big points gained, but they still need a reset now. Big moment for Diego and his shore team. The coaches on the shore need to find out the reason how he can get a better start.
And pretty lucky for Canada as well that that was one of the soft marks and not the solid ones that we had for the gate marks.
What a finish as Phil Robertson, the Canadians, tried to pull a little magic and squeeze in that line. They just did not have the speed, and a big victory for Spain as they finish in 5th. Oh, wow. Take a deep breath. A nice recovery for Diego Botín, so they're still in the fight.
And it was all on once again in this start. Now, none of the teams have actually nailed this start line yet when it comes to speed and distance from the line. But the French team really did nail getting closest to that optimum spot on the line, hence how they got to Mark 1 first. It was the Aussies and Kiwis, though, that had the better speed, which then led to that side-by-side rounding that was so epic.
Well, and the French led it away, didn't they? But unlike the first race, they weren't faultless from this position. They did make some mistakes. I think the wind is changing direction quite a lot. Slingsby read the wind well, and he managed to make his move on the French. And whilst at Mark 1, the Spanish, well, they were right at the back. They were making things so hard for themselves. French still in that leading pack, but Spain, you just see as soon as you're in the pack here, you're compromised, just slow down. But it's easy fix for Spain. Just work out how to get near that start line and be better with your timing. France, brilliant work, but they lost places, went round, and of course, some of these whole seasons can come down to such little differences. The mark had moved, and suddenly France, whilst they looked like they were going to have 4 boats between them and Spain, Canada and Denmark, big crash.
Let's go down on the water. The team that won race number 1, and they finished 3rd in race number 2. Quentin Delapierre is their driver. Quentin, you guys are making this very interesting. How are you finding the speed and looking so comfortable for a team that really didn't get much practice out there yesterday?
I feel okay. It's really good to be back in San Francisco, and with the little wing also, we didn't have the opportunity to sail this wing that much. So yeah, it's a good feeling for a moment, but we just have to keep doing.
And Quentin, you've been first at Mark 1 2 races in a row. Do you need to adjust your style in the start when you've got this different configuration?
I think we adjust a little bit the style. It's quite a different box and different wing also, so we cannot do what we like to do. But I think it's going well for the moment, Stevie, now.
It looks pretty good so far, that is for sure, Quentin, and you've got a lot to do now. Good luck for the next race.
Quentin Delapierre and the French in a battle, Stevie, and they are doing everything they have to do, winning race number 1. They finished race number 2 in 3rd place, with the Spanish finishing in 6th place. So they're getting help from the Spanish, and this is shaping up to be a showdown for one more race.
Well, it is. The Spanish really need to get things turned around, because otherwise they're going to have a tough night trying to sleep tonight.
So we take a look at the standings after 2 races. Exciting stuff. France wins race number 1. They get 3rd in race number 2. That gives them 18 points. Australia goes 5-1, 16 points. Emirates GBR a 6 and a 2, 14 even with New Zealand. And then you have Canada and Rockwell, Denmark even on 12. Spain really struggling. They sit in 3rd place overall, but they are losing that position rapidly. And then it's Switzerland, Germany, and the USA not having a great performance on home waters. So if it were to end right now, this is who would be in the grand final in the race for the $2 million. New Zealand already there. Australia almost locked it up, but France and Spain, look how close. 1 point, every position means something. Emirates GBR still a glimmer of hope. In Canada, it is starting to fade for them. So France, Spain, Emirates GBR will battle it out to see who will get that 3rd and final spot. Well, once again, SailGP has led the way in making sustainability a priority, and Season 4 has been another year of progress in reducing the league's carbon footprint and making the key impact categories a point of emphasis. SailGP is constantly striving to be better stewards of the planet. It's now time to reveal the winners of this year's Impact League competition.
The Impact League is SailGP's podium for the planet, a competition that runs concurrently with the season championship.
Nice work, guys.
Teams compete for points across the season in 2 ways: by acting and meeting sustainability targets at all events, and by delivering 4 specific projects: Race to Zero Waste, Accelerating Inclusion, Climate Action, and Breaking Boundaries through Gender Equity. For San Francisco, Emirates GBR won the last category with their Women's Pathway vision. Their program has educated and inspired the grassroots of the sport, and to ensure Hannah Mills and Hannah Diamond have a roadmap for taking on new roles in the F50.
We've had 4 or 5 different female athletes come through and race at different events on the boat and be part of the team and learn from the team, and then be able to take that away and put it into their own sailing. We've also now got 2 female athletes, myself and Hannah Diamond, as kind of full-time members of the team, and so the plan is to get me driving the boat as much as possible, to get Han Diamond doing the wing trim as much as possible, and so upskilling so that hopefully when we've had enough time and the team are confident, we can start to do some of those roles in the practice racing and then in the actual racing as well.
It's been a bold and exciting year for SailGP's Impact League, and the results are in for Season 4.
The overall winner of the Impact League for Season 4 is a brand new team. It is the Emirates Great Britain SailGP team.
It's been a long season, and yeah, the Impact League runs through our team. All the different focus areas, we're hugely passionate about, but it's actually been awesome to see the other teams and where their real passion points lie. Sustainability and impact isn't just one thing, there's so many facets to it, and so the 4 different focus areas really showcase different things that people really care about, so that's been super cool to see.
And congratulations to Emirates GBR. SailGP also trying to keep the waters a little less crowded by taking all the teams and their data and coaches and bringing them on the water. This is what we call Race HQ. And the US, all the data coming off the water for them is powered by T-Mobile for Business. And one of the great coaches out there is, of course, the newly minted Coach of the Year for New Zealand, that being the man himself, Ray Davies, joined by Josh Jr., and we got a chance to chat with him. Ray, congratulations on Coach of the Year, first of all. And how about New Zealand out there? Are you telling them, take care of the boat? Come on, Pete.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing conditions here in San Francisco. It's really turning it on. We got some good breeze. It's quite puffy, quite dynamic. As we saw, it's a bit tricky for some of those boats coming into the finish line there. But no, we're having a lot of fun here with JJ, and keeping an eye on the boys and girls out there.
And Josh, I mean, at the moment we can see you've got these 18-metre wings. How much are you actually looking at the other teams to see what they're doing to try and learn from them, or are you pretty confident in the game you're playing?
No, we're pretty confident in our settings and stuff, and you know, it's a pretty tricky race course out there, so getting in phase with the shifts and the pressure is really what's making the difference. So we're going to keep trying to do that.
All right, Ray, what is the plan for this third and final race? What's your message to Pete Burling?
Oh, look, we've got to keep it clean out there and keep the boat in one tack. But also got to send it. There's no other option either.
Ray Davies, Josh Jr., appreciate your time. Congratulations. Coach of the Year, Ray Davies and the Black Foils. So that is race HQ. 2 races down, 1 more race to go. Spain looking to scramble. Can France close the door? 1 more race here on Saturday. So the fans settle in as we come up with 7 minutes to go before the next race is underway, and that will give us a pretty clear picture on what happens tomorrow. Remember, there's 2 more fleet races, so Spain not out of it yet, and then it is the battle for $2 million on Championship Sunday.
Race number 2 done and dusted, and what an incredible performance that was from the Australian team. Now, I know they are the 3-time Grand Final champions, but toward the back end of the season, they've had a lot of challenges, and I think that really took a knock on their confidence. I mean, hitting the mark back in Christchurch, tons of technical difficulties, and even capsizing in Halifax, it gave them a lot of penalty points and put them back down to 2nd place in the season final leaderboard. So they don't have that final secured, and I think this win, getting so much space between the 2nd place boat, is giving them a lot of confidence and motivation, which is really good for them. Second thing is, there's a big rivalry right now between the French and the Spanish, because in the season leaderboard, the Spanish are in 3rd place and the French are in 4th. But the French today have been smashing it. They have been doing so well. They got a race win in the 1st race, and the 2nd race, they got a really good result. And the Spanish have not been doing so well. So if I were the Spanish team, I would be a bit nervous because the French have come out of nowhere. Honestly, they haven't been performing super well in the last events, but something changed. They're doing something different, and it's been really, really incredible for them. They've done really well at the starts, and they've gotten to Mark 1 in 1st in both races, which obviously really helps. If I were the Spanish, I think they just need to relax, try not to think so much on the fact that they're in 3rd, and they obviously need to keep that spot to get into the Grand Final tomorrow. They just need to race the way that they've raced throughout the season. I mean, they're not in 3rd place for no reason. They've had really great, consistent racing, and I think it'll pay off if they just relax, take a breath, and do what they know they can already do. That finish line in that last race was crazy with Canada hitting a mark. I'm curious to see if they get any penalties for that. But we're just about to head into the next race, and I'm really excited, so I'll see you guys after.
Underneath sound like thunder speaking. Flying carbon machines driven by the world's best. Yes, powered by nature, powered by nature. We are SailGP.
Welcome back to San Francisco Event 13. This is the SailGP Season 4 Grand Final. With Lisa Darman and Emily Nagel, Stevie Morrison, I'm Todd Harris. 1 more race to go before we get ready for Championship Sunday. Well, beautiful racing action, Emily. It all comes down to this 3rd and final race today and then tomorrow. But what do you want to do to close out this first day of racing?
I just want to see all of the teams on the line at the gun. You know, we've had a few of the teams start brilliantly, but every time there's been a few boats out the back, and that first reach is just so epic. It'd be so great to have all the boats really pushing hard.
3:20 before the next race. Stevie, the big question is, what in the world was Phil Robertson thinking? We're going to take a look at this one more time at this traffic jam that France created, and then we'll listen to Canada as they came to this line and tried to get around this mark.
Oh, he's pushing them off the course. He's trying to get them off and wide, but then he just misjudged when he needed to do it. It was quite a good maneuver. It was the correct thinking. Just didn't execute it. Oh, could just see there.
Well, technically we finished there.
Look at it one more time. So technically we finished. He's riding off Rockwell and then realizes, oh, I got to get around that.
Well, technically we finished there.
Well, technically you finished in 7th. So there you look at the 10 boats all ready to go. 10 points for a win, 1 point for dead last. They all look safe, clean, and they've got one more race in them today before we take a break, and then tomorrow 2 more fleet races, and then the grand final. So let's go down on the water, see a little bit of white capping out there, maybe a little more fog towards the Golden Gate Bridge. Lisa Darmanin, what are you seeing with 2 minutes to go?
It's actually becoming more patchy out here, Todd. And what I mean by that is the difference between the gusts and the lulls is really big. And I think that's why they're not delivering what Emily wants, which is all 10 boats on the line at go, because that trigger that they want to pull, you don't know if you're going to be in 40 kilometers per hour or 25 kilometers per hour. So it's really hard to judge out here. And I think this course is going to be just as hard as we saw that last speed. Lots of changing in positions.
1:45 now before the start of race number 3. There you see France getting themselves into position. Current leaderboard right now is France leading on 18 points, Australia, Great Britain, New Zealand, and Canada with Denmark. Now that's just for the event. Remember, it doesn't matter. All those points will get wiped away other than the fact that you will win $200,000, but they're all battling for $2 million, so you have to be in the top 3.
And it's good news for Spain there that there's so many teams above them that are tied on points.
Yeah.
Because all it will take is one good race and they would jump 2 places.
Right now, they just need to be in the top 5, and that will get them into the grand final. But right now, the hottest team out on the water is France. Quentin Delapierre, very consistent. Yesterday, unable to practice with the rest of the fleet, so coming in a little bit cold, Steve, with under a minute to go.
Well, he's not shown that, has he? He's looked pretty sharp, and he was chasing the Spanish down there. I wonder if he's going to try and make life difficult for Botin. Botin is at the back of the fleet again. France, we've seen them make this work for themselves. 42 seconds to go. New Zealand look well positioned to me. Switzerland up the line. They look well positioned as well. We want to be at the more downwind end of the line, the more towards the bottom of our screen. Spain are up and foiling with 31 seconds to go. How are they going to judge this start? Can they find a gap? Delapierre's winding it up out the back, right-hand side of our screen. The French are coming in, but they look like they might be late this time. Spain, they will have a gap. They've got to be careful of New Zealand, and it's now all about timing as we run in here. The Kiwis very aggressive at the bottom. They've got nowhere to go, Todd. France, they're looking to thread the needle around everyone. It's about timing now. Delapierre's judged it well. Watch for the line to turn white. Have the French nailed this 3 for 3? It's going to be clear. Whoa, it's so tight. Spain have got to stay clear there. USA, great start. Denmark, great start, but France again on the inside. Can they accelerate fast enough to get to Mark 1 in the lead?
Quentin Delapierre and the French driving it like they stole it as they approach mark number 1 here in the 3rd and final race on Saturday. But it is Nikolai Sehested, the Great Dane, and the Americans going toe for toe.
Oh, that was brilliant work by Delapierre, but it wasn't quite enough that time. He got a little bit too slow at the gun, and that opened the door for Rockwool Denmark. Sehested, he needs a result here if he's going to have any hope of getting a good event finish here and making anywhere near the grand final. But at the moment, the French are just sailing so well. There's no door opening for any of those teams behind the French.
Best start for the Americans, Emily, no question about it.
Yeah, brilliant start for the US team. It's, you know, the first time we've seen them in that position around Mark 1, and hopefully they can consolidate on that and hold it through to the end of the race.
Well, we've got a full collection of the speeds on the bottom there, and 53 miles an hour for the US boat at the moment. They're going well down here. They're nicely lined up for gate 2, but France, they've got themselves in space. They're well positioned. They're fast. Opportunity knocks, right-hand side of screen. Spain, 9th again.
Oh, man. France picks up yet another position. Bad news for the Spanish. So it's Denmark, USA, and France now 1, 2, and 3.
Well, we can see here the blue marks on our screen. That's suggesting that the current is moving down the course. It's helping them down. It's like a travelator, an escalator taking you down the course there. But there's not massive differences. We're not seeing huge differences in that as we're on board for the manoeuvre there with our T-Mobile POV camera. And it was a pretty good one for the US. I think they'll be happy with that.
Want to go low here for the French and go behind them? Yeah, great.
Just hearing the voice there of Taylor Canfield, of course, the driver on board, sounding pretty calm. And I think when you're out in second place, you've got no one really to have to avoid in front of you. You're going to be feeling that little bit calmer. But a mistake there by the US. They got a bit high. A lot of white water opens the door for the French.
2, 1, turning up. Center trainer. 2, 1.
And they're all going towards shore, so it's Denmark, France, and the USA top 3.
The US with a bumpy rounding there, briefly off the foils as they head into the shoreline.
Emirates GBR also follows behind the Americans. They have a little bit more speed, so they'll pick up a spot. New Zealand decides to get away from the crowd. That is kind of the MO of Peter Burley and the Kiwis. The Black Foils like to find open space and sail to it. Now Spain with a tight rounding. They're ahead of Australia and Switzerland as well as Germany. So a big pickup, Stevie, for the Spanish as they vault from 9th all the way up to 5th.
Well, and I think by taking that left turn as well, they've got slightly cleaner wind than they would have had if they went the other way. So big opportunity for the Spanish.
And meanwhile, the French, unforced error outside the boundary, just pushed it a bit too close into the shoreline, which is good news for that Spanish team, now 1 place behind them.
Oh, that's an unforced error though there, really. They're trying to maximise the width of the course early on, but you can't go out of bounds.
Nice, Mark. Happy to cruise it here.
Looks like a bit of a gain for the New Zealand team at the moment. They came in there 4th or 5th, so that move away from the shoreline has worked well. And we heard from Lisa, the wind is more changeable, it's more variable. There's no one fixed part. Oh, a little error by the Kiwis there. They're off the foils as well. It's clearly not easy conditions out there, but there's no one path to take. If you can see wind on the water, and that means looking for the darker patches on the water, it's not black magic out there, Todd. You can actually see the effect the wind has on the water, and if you can find those, you're going to be able to piece your way through the fleet.
You see that section of the course, Stevie, that's got so much chop in it. Emily, you talked about the current coming in, kind of the conveyor belt that Stevie talked about. Right now, Denmark does not seem to be having a problem finding that right sweet spot.
No, but as we have said 100 times, once you're in front, life becomes easy. You don't have all the disturbed air of everyone around you. When we look at the pack, we see where the mistakes being made is in all of these maneuvers. They've got the little wings up, surrounded by this turbulent breeze, which means if you don't nail the maneuver, it can be really difficult to accelerate out of it. Well, the Danish don't have to deal with that.
Here's the race to the grand final. It'll be New Zealand, Australia, and France and Spain tied. Now, the tiebreaker is how you did in the last race, and Spain right now just gave it back to France. So they are even on 81 points as it stands right now. Tight crossing there as the French come across the bow of the Spanish.
It is tight, and I think to clarify that as well, it's how you do in the last event.
Right.
So it's not the last race of this event that matters on that. No, well, I think it's not the most simple of systems, Todd. Luckily, we've got a good computer system that will do that for us here. But yeah, it's who does best in the last event will seal the difference between a tiebreaker.
See Denmark way off in the distance with a huge lead. New Zealand now has moved into 2nd place ahead. Emirates GBR in 3rd. Spain is up to 4th. France in 5th. And that's where your eyes are going to go, because that is the battle right now for the 3rd and final spot in the grand final coming up tomorrow on Championship Sunday.
It's such a big course, isn't it? You can just see the space the boats have got, so it does come much more down to how fast you're able to sail your boat.
And it is absolutely neck and neck between some of the teams at the moment. Both France and Spain have the exact same average speed of 62.6 kilometers an hour around this course, which is just incredible considering how big it is, the different modes they could be sailing.
Big moment there, though, potentially. Spain did cross ahead of France. First time this whole event, the Spanish have been ahead of the French, but can they remain there at the finish? They're going to have to watch out for Australia, as we see on the inside, New Zealand squeezing Emirates Great Britain out. The Kiwis, it's a better performance for them in this race.
And Australia spins it right in front of Spain, so they decide to go back out to sea, away from the shore. And there's going to be some traffic in here. Australia has to spin back as the French were coming in hot. Look at this, Spain dips behind the French.
Oh, look how light the wind looks as well. They're going to struggle to get back on the foils after that poor manoeuvre. As soon as you lose the speed, you lose some of your own wind that you generate by moving, and that's going to be a costly one for Australia. Huge loss coming here.
And the Spanish are back up and running after dropping one hole in the water. So Denmark way off in the distance. The Great Dane, Nikolai Sehested and company, they've got a massive lead. They are all but checked out. New Zealand into second place, Emirates GBR in third, and Spain now on the move in fourth ahead of France.
Yeah, we've just seen Spain hit by a gust of 38 kilometers an hour. Meanwhile, on the other side of the course, it's down at 25. So as Lisa was saying, it is so gusty out there, and that is going to make a huge difference on just where the gains are going to be made.
Give you an idea of the speeds they're doing out on the water, in case you're wondering. It's around 48, 49 miles an hour for Denmark, New Zealand, and Great Britain. And in kilometers, you're talking slow 60s.
I think that's quite a nice camera shot there, really, Todd. You see there's darker bits on the water and there's lighter bits. That's not a coincidence. That's where if the darker bit is, there's more wind. That's how we can see what the breeze is doing out there on the water. And you can see it's so very, very changeable. I think up by the San Francisco shoreline, there's a bit less wind. Oh, Emirates, Great Britain, another one. They're trying to maximise the width of the course, but you don't want to take the loss of then having to slow down, drop some 30 metres back behind New Zealand, and then go again.
Disagree, but see how it is. Head down. Feels like it's teetering.
You've got Liv Mackay, Andy Maloney on the other side of the boat to the rest of the crew. They're just trying to set themselves up for maybe one more manoeuvre before the bottom of the course. What are they going to do? Is it going to be a right turn for New Zealand? Looks like they might try and keep it simple.
Meanwhile, Denmark has already made the turn at the last gate, and it looks like Spain and France are on a match race. And how about this?
Oh, the New Zealand boat, look at that.
Kiwis getting a little loose.
You've got to get the boat safely to the final, Pete. I've got to remind you of that.
Well, as Coach Ray Davies said, they were going to absolutely send it, and that he almost did send it.
France back past Spain, though. Another brilliant downwind by the French boat. They've got one more leg up into the wind before that little sprint to the finish. What can Diego Botín do? He needs to start getting points back.
We know in training that the Spanish team really focused on their maneuvers. They did way more maneuvers than any other team on the water. So for them, I think that's going to be one of their big opportunities to make the gains. We know that the French team are fast in a straight line. So if the Spanish can sail consistently well in maneuvers, not drop off the foils when it matters, they might still have a chance here.
Well, here we are on board the New Zealand boat at the moment. They're going to turn up through the wind, through the power zone, and they just get too heeled over. It gets very, very loose. Slight miscommunication there, or they got a gust of wind they weren't expecting, but we're not used to seeing errors like that from the New Zealand crew.
So there is a situation like 5 of 6, the third and final race today. Remember, 2 more fleet races coming tomorrow before the grand final in the race for $2 million. Let's go down to Lisa Darman. And Lisa, how are the Danes able to find these puffs? It seems like they are just sailing into prime location every single maneuver.
3, 2, 1. It's amazing out here, Todd, because all the boats for Hull First are really close together. So those teams are having to deal with boat-on-boat situations, having to dump other teams to tack and avoid, and that's really costing distance. And the Danes, they can link the gusts of pressure together, they can be patient in their maneuvers, and we're seeing how hard maneuvers are out here. So it's amazing to watch. The breeze has actually picked up a little bit more, so we should see the maneuvers be a little bit more easy for this lap. But a bit of a shorter course as well as we saw the previous one.
Yeah, the Danes will have one more gate to go through, and we were initially concerned about fog earlier today as it rolled in, as it often does in this part of the world, but it cleared up in time for racing. There you see it starting to settle in just a bit.
There we go, Blair Tuke suggesting that he likes the wind in the direction they're going to. So let's not worry about where Emirates are going. We think we're going to where the best wind is. Let's keep going straight.
Almost a foregone conclusion as they approach gate number 5 is Nikolai Sehested and Rockwool, Denmark, that look to take the win here in the third and final race of the day as the Danes come screaming across. Remember, they finished second in race number 1 and they came back with an 8th, and now they end the day with a win. Denmark gets the win. 3 races, 3 different winners.
Oh, great work, and we saw in the background there the French may have got past the Kiwis. They have. Nice manoeuvre. Can de la Pierre get a perfect rounding of this mark? At the moment he's got the right of way, but he has to execute one more turn. Going to lose a lot of speed. Oh, there's a big gust of wind on them there. That water, look how angry it looks. There's a big gust of wind. Emirates Great Britain fly round the outside. Great work by the British on that final upwind.
Giles Scott and Hannah Mills executing to perfection there. They will pick up another position as the French drop back to third. That's good news for the Spanish. Fourth place will go to the Kiwis. So New Zealand having a moment out there, but they are already punched their ticket into the grand final. And Spain comes back with a fifth. So that's where they really need to be throughout. But remember, the tiebreaker is how you do at the final event overall. And right now, France is beating the punch. Canada will go 6th, Germany will go 7th, and the Australians drop back to 8th.
Yeah, surprising performance by the Aussies in that one, really, because they had a pretty good start. A couple of little errors, but it's a tricky course. The wind is very variable. If you get a little bit out of phase, so if you're going to the right when you should be going to the left, suddenly you lose a lot of distance quickly.
And you also have to ask, are they backing out of boat-on-boat situations? We know that they're out there, they're going to send it, they're going to be super competitive. But boat-on-boat situations, close quarters, are you really going to risk your boat and not make the final?
I always feel like Tom Slingsby's one for kind of not wanting to lose anything if he can.
Well, his report card on the day is a 5, a 1, and an 8, so not necessarily the model of consistency, but that win was huge for the Aussies. Race 1 goes the way of the French, race 2 goes to the Aussies, and race 3 goes to Nikolaj Sehested and Denmark as they show the parity in season 4.
And my, oh my, were the French punchy on that start. They were set up out the back, up on the foil super early. When you look at it, there's nowhere to go. But what they did, they ducked behind the rest of the fleet with absolute pace. And you have to feel for the Spanish here, who had good speed, really good time and distance. But in the final 3 seconds, the French take them out. They stop them, they drop off the foils. The Spanish were out the back and the French flew.
So Australia with a great race in race number 2, not so much in race number 3, and now we can go down and talk with Tom Slingsby. Tom, you guys are the 3-time reigning and defending champions. How do you find consistency out on that water that you know so well when the conditions are this tricky?
Yeah, it's about minimising mistakes. We washing rudders out a little bit, and so we're doing well, and then a couple of bad decisions. I made a bad decision in that last one. I thought the French were going to get us on starboard, and I just rolled into attack and into no wind. That was a real bad decision on my part.
But Tom, you must be feeling pretty good after that second race. It looked like the boat was working better. You were really, really fast in that, and that's got to be encouraging ahead of a final tomorrow.
Yeah, no, everything was going well. We've just got to, I hope other teams are having the same problem. We're sort of washing our rudders quite often, and so we're going to go back and look at those and try to improve them for tomorrow.
Tom, appreciate your time. Wish you the best of luck. 2 more fleet races tomorrow, and hopefully we will see you in the grand final.
Okay, thank you.
Tom Slingsby, the 3-time reigning and defending champions. Will there be a new winner in season 4? The Aussies, they are in a very precarious situation.
And here's a look at those numbers, and it really is disappointing for that Australian team. They've got the most number of maneuvers out of everyone, and also one of the lowest foiling times, which is pretty surprising for them, especially compared to the top of that fleet. You look at Denmark, 100% fly time. Obviously, it's a bit easier once you're out the front. You've got that space to maneuver. But then you look at the Kiwis as well. They were in the middle of the pack, but they still managed to sail the shortest distance compared to everyone without losing too much speed.
Well, let's take a look at the action going back to race number 1. And Stevie, the French just come out of the gate gangbusters.
Well, if you think what happened to them on this day last season when Great Britain and Ben Ainsley, specifically on the wheel of the British boat, absolutely gave them a masterclass in terms of taking them out. And well, de la Pierre's learned his lesson because he's been brilliant at the start today. He's in good shape, but they've definitely got things to work on because they whilst they were very good in this first race, they lost places in other races.
But it wasn't just them that made those errors. I mean, Canada here, sailing straight into the finish line. Now, I know they're not in the chance of the final, but still, you don't hit a mark.
Well, no, but that's Phil Robertson. He's just super aggressive. He likes to take every point when he can, and slight misjudgment for him then. But the battle royale really was France against Spain. And the story of the day was brilliant, starting by the French and really digging deep on that Spanish boat. They've not lost it yet, but they need a serious rethink on their starting for tomorrow.
So the numbers have been crunched, and this is how it looks after 3 races. It is France out in front doing exactly what they needed to do with 26 points. 23 goes to Emirates GBR and Rockwell, Denmark, and 22. New Zealand already into the grand final, so points not a big deal to them. Australia still looking pretty secure for second place, and really an opportunity missed as Canada, Spain, Germany, Switzerland, and the USA are struggling to find their form here in the San Francisco waters. So the current season standings look like this. France, more importantly, has broken the tie. They now lead Spain, so it's 81-80, and that is really where the battle's going to be. Those two teams will battle it out to see who joins New Zealand and probably Australia, because Australians have a 3-point lead over the French and a 4-point lead over Spain. New Zealand, as we said before, already in it, and again, they are all racing to get into the grand final and an opportunity to win $2 million. So we set it down on the water to get the breakdown from the team that was in third coming into today. Spain standing by with Lisa Darmanin.
Diego, it looked like a difficult day. Obviously started rough, but you guys bounced back and kept fighting all day.
Yeah, that's what was all about, no? We had awful starts again, and yeah, we managed to climb places after that, no? So happy with that, but it's true that we need to step up our game for tomorrow.
It was pretty dramatic at the finish. I think the Canadians and the Danish gave you a few more points on the French, but I think you're 1 point behind them at the moment.
Behind who?
The French overall.
Really? No, I don't think so.
Well, anyway, looking forward to tomorrow, and we're looking at similar conditions. What are you going to do tonight to get ready for tomorrow?
Yeah, just overview everything, do a little tweaks probably to. Yeah, I feel like we can get massive gains in the start. We need to push it tomorrow, and also we can, probably get a couple of gains on handling, and we'll be ready for tomorrow.
Thanks, Diego. For tomorrow, it is looking pretty similar. We have winds around 30 kilometers per hour, gusting to 40 kilometers per hour, but I'm expecting it to be gusty and shifty and difficult again. So we're not quite sure what the configuration will be tomorrow, but we'll stand by and see, and we'll let you go debrief with your team, Diego.
Lisa, we'll just say agree to disagree, but I hate to tell him, Stevie, Lisa's right. They are a point down to the French.
I think probably that was the slight confusion in the fact that we've got an event happening here, the San Francisco Sail Grand Prix event, and then we've got the season points. Lisa and our points, we're talking about the season points. I think for Diego, he's thinking about this event. So in this event, they're clearly some way behind the French overall on points, but all that matters is that race for the top 3.
So let's take a look back at race number 3, and I don't know how Quentin Delapierre squeezed his boat in this tight territory.
Well, I think it's one of the advantages of being fast, isn't it, Emily?
Yeah, when you're fast, you can be in that controlling position. I mean, look how he took out the Spanish here, and I think we're going to get more of that tomorrow. Just that taking advantage of the other boat whenever possible.
Yeah, that just gives you a good idea, Stevie. I mean, this is not something you even want to touch. They are not fragile, but they do not like to bump.
Well, they don't touch. Rubbing is not racing in these, that is for sure. And I mean, it just shows how much more manoeuvrable they are when they're up and foiling. When you're fast, you are the attacker. You can be aggressive. And he did a fantastic job with the timing, but he did it all day. So the strategy was working well for them. And I think on these small wings, it's probably good to be fast and then dart around a bit.
And as Lisa pointed out, the conditions, Emily, look good tomorrow, so much more of the same. I gotta think Spain's gonna come out with a different strategy.
They've got to come out on the offensive a bit more and really push it on that start line. French, they really need to be thinking about no mistakes.
So the debrief has begun. 3 races are complete. We'll have 2 more fleet races tomorrow, and then, of course, the grand final for $2 million. That will wrap up our coverage today for the SailGP Season 4 grand final here in San Francisco, California. Event 13, the final event of Season 4. On behalf of Lisa Darmanin, Emily Nagel, and Stevie Morrison, I'm Todd Harris saying so long for now. Right now, it looks like France has the edge on Spain for the final spot. We'll find out what happens tomorrow. We'll see you in San Francisco on Sunday. Welcome to the City by the Bay and the SailGP Season 4 Grand Final, San Francisco. The big win goes to France in race number 1. Australia wins race number 2.
Oh no! Oh, it's so tight. Spain have got to stay clear. The Battle Royale, France against Spain.